Hey everyone, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by some call me Johnny to discuss the reveal of Resident Evil 3 Remake during the State of Play. So, let's get started. Alright, John, so I assume you've watched the State of Play at this point, and
yes, I have.
All those big reveals that, got leaked.
You see, I know that 3 Remake was leaked because that teaser image was making the rounds about a week ago. And interesting. I think it was kind of like a foregone conclusion at this point, given that they go out of their way to make all of these beautiful assets for Resident Evil 2. And if you think back, if you know your history, Resident Evil 3 was in a lot of ways reused a lot of assets from RE2. So, how long was it going to take for them to just go ahead and just give us the RE3 remake,
Yeah, it was really just a matter of time. I think everybody expected it, but it's actually surprising how soon, because we had Resident Evil 2 just this year. It's hard to imagine, but yeah, just this year. It's coming out only a year later, and with the games looking this good, I know they're reusing assets, but still, this is a massive turnaround.
I like to think of it as just an homage to the original game's development cycle, because Resident Evil 2 was early 1998. 3, they say remake. Just jumping guns in. Resident Evil 3 was 1999. It was late 1999, but it's still year after RE2 came out, and I know a big part of that is because RE3 reuses a lot from Raccoon City, and I guess even when the graphics and environments are so beautiful, even nowadays, it's I guess development cycles don't take that long if you're able to just rejigger a few things and just call it a new game. But Resident Evil 3 is quite beloved in the classic universe. I personally don't like it as much as a lot of others do, because to me, in a lot of ways, it was kind of a step backwards from Resident Evil 2, where to me, in my opinion, this was the kind of the breaking point where they wanted to branch into an action game using the classic RE engine, but it's it wasn't quite there yet. It was the game to introduce the 180 turn, I know that. There was this ammunition system, which I thought was okay, but ultimately not needed. I'd rather just find different kinds of grenade rounds on the floor and just use it that way. And there was also a dodge mechanic, which I remember being quite clunky. It's been a while since I played RE3, though, to be fair, and I'm in the middle right now doing a Resident Evil marathon, so I'm looking forward to revisiting it. But if it's anything like what Remake 2 did for Resident Evil, then I have nothing but good things to look forward to, because one of the big things about the remakes is taking that old gameplay and modernizing it, for lack of a better word, to make it more enjoyable, and I think I have nothing but to gain in Resident Evil 3.
Yeah, and I'm someone that didn't really start playing Resident Evil games until the original Resident Evil remake. These remakes always seem to be the best way to just jump into the series again. And then I had 4 and so forth. Kept playing, skip 6, but whatever. Did not hear great things, so I skipped that. But yeah, most Resident Evil games I play, I really enjoyed, but I've not really gone back and played the originals, and that includes 3. But I really enjoyed my gameplay, my time with Resident Evil 2. I've only played through Claire's story. I got stuck with Leon's revisit, doing the second story. Kind of used up my bullets a little too much. Okay, that is a problem.
This ain't Resident Evil 4, mister.
No, this is not. So, that said, I'm still really excited for this, because I remember all the gaming magazines at the time just talking about Nemesis, building him up. It's look how ridiculous this thing is. It comes with a bazooka. Look at all, I remember having a magazine that had a strategy guide for it, and it just, okay, here's a time where Nemesis shows up. You can either run away and preserve your ammo, or actually take him on, and if you can beat him, you get special ammo, but you've used up all your other ammo, so you got to decide which is the best way to do. And they were really talking it up, and I was okay, this looks really cool. But I remember my time playing Resident Evil 2 and not being able to get past the initial zombie attack, because I wasn't used to survival horror. So I'm oh, I have to kill all these guys before I can move on. What? I'm out of ammo? what do I do? Just never figuring out to run.
I definitely remember Resident Evil 3, like the original, being one of the hardest, if not the hardest, game in the classic series. Mainly because there was a really big risk versus reward system, as you were mentioning earlier, with Nemesis. I also think that like just the city design was a little more claustrophobic than 2 was, and 2 was pretty claustrophobic, especially that opening where they threw like 6-7 zombies at you, like in a decrepit highway, and if you, 3 is even worse if you can imagine that.
Oh God!
But I remember from. Because I remember my first playthrough of Resident Evil 3, it was miserable. It was like, oh, what am I doing? It's like I can't do anything, But then I watched my friend Matt from SGB in high school. He loves Resident Evil 3, and when he did a Let's Play of it years ago, like he demonstrated that, like if you take the time to like learn the mechanics in and out, the game does greatly reward you with like new ammunition, and though it does seem like intimidating, it's not that bad as long as you can utilize the dodge mechanic, but I didn't think it was that good of a mechanic. And that's why I never took the time to like utilize it appropriately. But again, another thing to just look forward to with the remake is how well will those games streamline that kind of design. Like I don't think they're gonna go just straight up like RE6, because by RE6 it was just action game with Resident Evil mechanics in it, and in a way 3 can kind of revitalize that in some fashion, but I don't think it's going to be to the extreme of 6. Like you're not going to be able to like slide like between the legs of a zombie, like and pop one up there.
Not going to be that much of a dodge mechanic.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that bad. No.
Yeah.
Still interesting to think about.
Yeah, it is, because I'm actually rather surprised at how little they showed of the Nemesis in this, because with those images leaked, Nemesis is right there front and center. You see him. And here they barely show his face. Like, I had to, when I rewatched the trailer, I only barely heard him saying stars, which was cool still. I mean, it was really neat, but it really kept up that mystery. And he does come across as a beefed up Mr. X, and which is, I guess, is always the intent. But considering what they did with Mr. X in 2. That is a frightening aspect of exactly like what they might do, because 2 was legit scary at points. Like the sound design alone, and if you could just hear this like in the distance, stars, like oh crap, I'm out of here.
Like the sound design for Nemesis in Remake is going to be phenomenal if Mr. X is anything to go by, because it is incredible it is frightening to think about what they can do with Nemesis, considering how beefed up Mr. X was in RE2 Remake. And it's like, this dude already had a rocket launcher in the original. He follows you through loading screens. Like, the only way you can make him more intimidating is like if you give him a Segway and give him 2 rocket launchers. And it's like, what is that coming at me at 30 miles per hour? It's Nemesis. I should probably run.
Yeah, definitely should get out of here. And oh man, I do have to ask. I'm a little sad that it did get leaked beforehand, because I do think the idea of it starting out as a Project Resistance reveal and being like, wait a second, because it was like they're showing all RE2 stuff, so I'm like, oh, does Resistance take place during 2 and you visit those areas? That's pretty cool, because I didn't try out the beta or anything like that. But then all of a sudden they went back in time. It's like, oh, wait a second, this is Jill. This is Resident Evil 3, and became very obvious later on. I do wish that they had been able to keep that, but in thinking about it, Resident Evil 3 is one of the first games in the series to not have dual campaigns, because you do play as Carlos, but that was only for a very specific section during Jill's whole thing. So I actually think it's a really good idea to add replay value thanks to Resistance.
Well, Resistance kind of gave me the impression that if it wasn't just going to be a glorified side mode, like akin to Mercenaries, it was just going to be a very, very niche sort of like mini game that you can play, like, I don't know, download for free with a pre-order of RE3. But no, it's its own mode, and I don't know. There's a part of me that feels that it's kind of like this is just something we worked on the side. It's not exactly a main attraction at all. Because from the opening trailer that we saw in this morning's State of Play, it looks like they were just teasing up that game, and then let's go to let's go to Resident Evil 3 remake. You know, it's like, anybody here? Anybody still watching? Still watching? RE3 remake. Here you go. Oh, I was like, I'm up. So that's the kind of way I go. Like, I don't want to say it's like being pushed aside, but it's like, okay, so is it just Mercenaries? Is it just Fourth Mercenary again? Like Fourth Survivor, where I'm just trying to like run through Raccoon City under a time limit and just trying to get out? Or?
Well, they did show that it's an asymmetrical multiplayer game where you're teaming up with 3 other people if you're the survivors, and there's another player playing the mastermind who actually can spawn in enemies and obstacles and traps. So you're kind of going against somebody in that way, which is interesting, but I'm not sure how well they'll be able to balance it. I didn't get to try out the beta, but it seems like an interesting idea. I'm more apt to try it as an extra mode rather than its own game.
Right. Side attraction, not necessarily the main course. And this is me personally. I certainly don't speak for the majority here, but I still feel there's a bit of a stigma when it comes to multiplayer Resident Evil action. Because I think we're not that far removed from like Operation Raccoon City, and the like. And
they've been trying this for years, ever since Outbreak on PS2, or was that PS1?
It's Outbreak. This first one I want to say is PS2. I think they're both PS2.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I see what you mean. Like, yeah, they've been trying to do this for years to certain degrees of success. But I think like after like Raccoon City and all that sort of thing, it's like people are willing to try multiplayer, but it's like that's not the reason why people buy Resident Evil. And I think that they've been struggling to jump over that hurdle for years. So again, if it's fun, it's fun. If it's not, then whatever. I still have like a really good remake to look forward to.
I've talked to a few people that just replayed the crap out of Resident Evil 2. Like, okay, here's, we'll do all 4 playthroughs that's possible in this and see all that. And there's all that extra scenarios in the DLC. Like, I think there's going to be plenty to do within Resident Evil 3 itself that, it really is just an extra thing you can ignore completely and enjoy, which I think is great. And as somebody who's not played these original games, I'm definitely looking forward to trying it out.
Yeah. The only thing I could request, it was just like, I remember Resident Evil 3, I don't remember if it was the Dreamcast release specifically, or just updated releases in general, giving Jill a buttload of costumes, and that's always kind of like the novelty of like repeated playthroughs in Resident Evil. It's like, I'm gonna go in my SARS uniform today, or today I'm gonna go in my tank top. That sort of little nuance I think is really heartwarming and endearing. So I want them to do the same again, but don't lock it behind paid DLC.
We know from the end of the trailer that you can get her original tank top, but you have to pre-order it to get the classic costume pack. So
can I just play the game?
Nope.
That way.
You're gonna buy it and you're gonna like it.
Daddy Capcom's a jerk.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of costumes to choose with Jill. You got her original, you got Resident Evil 3, you got Resident Evil 1, you got Resident Evil 5, you got the Revelations games, I think. There's a lot they could do with her, so I'm sure they will. Since you are familiar with the game, does the story look to be basically the same? Are there a bunch of new scenes, or are they just redone scenes?
It seems to be just more of the same. I didn't play Resident Evil 3 as often as I did 2, and 1 for that matter. So as long as there's I think there was an evil Russian, and there was Carlos, and then there's Nemesis, and basically, I mean, the story from Resident Evil 3, from what I can remember, is more. It's not so much like who's the bad guy. It's like it's just getting out of the city, because that's what matters now. It's like this guy is evil. We thought he was on our side. Thought he was dead. Came back. It was like, okay, that's cool, but it's more about just trying to get out of the city, and giving Nemesis the what for. Because everybody quotes like, "Do you want stars? I'll give you stars." But it's like, yeah, but what about the bad guy? Who? Oh, you mean Nemesis? No, I mean the guy behind the scenes. Oh, like Mikhail? I don't even remember his name.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, it wasn't Wesker? Usually it's Wesker. Yeah, because I don't know. All I really do know is Nemesis. I was like, oh, right, I guess you don't really think about Umbrella as much, because Nemesis is just so omnipresent that it's just, okay, that's a thing.
Yeah. It's like the story, to me anyway. Again, I should stress, to me, was very secondary in Nemesis. Again, it was just a matter of just getting out of the city and doing your best to survive.
Absolutely.
And oh my god, that thing has a rocket launcher.
What are they doing to me now? This is a little nuts. Why won't this thing die? But yeah, I again, looking forward to it. In some ways, I hate the release date. Boy, March and April are rough.
I don't have enough time. There needs to be more than 24 hours in a day. Because I got 7 Remake and Animal Crossing.
Doom Eternal, Persona 5
yeah.
Royal.
Yeah, those two.
Yeah, those.
It's like, come on, man. It's like, I might still be in the middle of my Resident Evil marathon.
I mean, you could just tack it on at that point.
Yeah, I might as well just tack it on at this point. Yeah, why not? The smart YouTuber business strategy trademark thing.
Perfect. But well, any other thoughts on this Resident Evil 3 remake now that we've seen a bit of gameplay?
Nothing really else I can say otherwise. Besides that, Capcom's got a really good batting average when it comes to Resident Evil remakes. I have no reason to doubt Nemesis will be any exception. So I'm looking very much forward to it, and here's hoping it's a fantastic time that kind of mitigates the problems I had with the original.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'm rather curious. I mean, this is getting way ahead at this point, but do you think our next Resident Evil game will be 8, Code Veronica, or 4?
It'll be 8.
Probably
it has to be 8.
Yeah, probably 8.
Given that, despite the fact that everybody clamors for these remakes, like everybody wanted RE2 remake since it was announced, and then Resident Evil 3 remake afterwards is kind of a natural assumption because the two games are so close to each other. But after that, I was like, I think you probably want to make the next numerical entry before you start dipping into Code Veronica. And I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I love Resident Evil 4. I would not be against the remake, but I'm not yearning for a remake.
Yeah, it's not like it's going to top it. Like they'd have to. I don't know. I don't know what they could do.
2 rocket launchers and a Segway. Like, I'm going to go back to that one again. That's the only way it can make it better. But no, but it's like my need for a RE4 remake is nowhere near as high as I would want one for 2 or 3 for that matter. Because 3 could use one, 2 could have used one, but 4, I don't know. It's like that's tricky.
I think Code Veronica could use one. 0 might even be able to use one.
Code Veronica could use one, but just by being a different game entirely. I don't like Code Veronica. I really don't like Code Veronica.
Oh well, but alright, well I think that covers it for our Resident Evil 3 discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain, and Johnny, where can they find you at?
As always, you can find me at youtube.com/somecallmejohnny. Right now, I'm in the middle of a dual marathon, you could say. I'm tackling 2 series at once. I'm tackling the long-awaited Kirby marathon, looking at the Kirby series, and then I'm also tackling Resident Evil. So the timing is really appropriate here. I love it.
There's a DLC where Kirby is Nemesis.
Yeah, absolutely. Like one series is about a vile abomination that goes and devours creatures, and the other one's Resident Evil.
I mean, somebody did a PC version of Resident Evil 2 with Thomas the Tank Engine as X. Somebody can mod that. So, yeah. And, of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Resident Evil and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.